Welcome to another episode of Jewish Softball More Than a Game. I'm Maddie Lewis, joined by Arizona Richie. How are you doing today, Arizona?
I'm good. How are you doing today, Maddie?
Doing good. I just got back from Colorado. I was coaching our 18U team with Robin in the International Challenge. So
Nice.
just kind of getting back on track and, getting ready to play in Canada in the next week or so.
Yep. How did you guys do in Colorado?
Yeah, it was one of the greatest experiences, I think, just being on the other side, being a coach and seeing all that goes into that. And obviously, really special since it's Team Israel and it all means a lot to us. But yeah, we were off to a pretty slow start. We had some exhibition games against some weaker teams that we kind of coasted by. And then once pool play started, we played more competitive teams. And yeah, just didn't do as well as I think we probably know we could have, but turned it around at the end and ended up taking silver in the silver bracket, which was really good to see. We made a little bit of a run there on bracket play day. So I think, overall pretty pleased with the turnout, but me and Robin are very competitive and
Yeah.
come back for vengeance next year.
Yes, absolutely. Probably that experience probably gave you a lot of grace for like our coaches or coaches that we've had in the past.
Yes, like that's a full-time job. Like you're not just focusing on yourself. Like you have to kind of control every single part of the puzzle, which is, that just takes time and experience. But yeah, I know you were up to some fun things this past weekend as well.
Yes. Wow. While Maddie was, coaching in Colorado, I was walking down the aisle with her cousin.
Just a small Jewish world.
Yeah, I was not marrying her cousin, to be clear. I was the bridesmaid to his groomsman. So my sister got married to his best friend from childhood. And I think like a couple, like maybe 2 years ago at Canada, we made the connection
Yeah, kind of like
that we had this small world weirdness,
yeah,
but
kind of crazy that Canada's like we're gearing up for that tournament now and like
and that
that
happened.
news like 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, because my now brother-in-law was there, I guess, and you recognized him or something. Is that how the story went?
I feel like my mom might have recognized him. I don't
Yeah.
actually know,
Because
or
you guys were at like weddings together in the
yeah,
past.
maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
At
his
Adam's wedding, I
at
guess.
Adam's wedding. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Adam was great. He helped us keep pace down the aisle. He was like, "Is this your first time?" My sister was like, "You can't tell." Like they were just like, I guess I was a newbie because I was like, "Okay, which foot should we start with?"
That makes sense. I mean, you wanted right, you know?
Yeah, and I just got back on Monday night, did a workout class this morning at Solid Core, got some lessons in yesterday actually, and yeah, just gearing up for Canada.
Yeah, how are your lessons going? Speaking of being on the coach's side.
Yes, my lessons are actually going well. I feel like I've been giving lessons since I was probably like 18-ish. So I feel like I'm kind of in a groove with like how I give infield lessons at least. And they're definitely like gearing up now. I have a couple like reoccurring clients, which is exciting. I ran like my first clinic like last
Yeah,
week.
I think that's a good segue back to announcing our next guest on this podcast that, I actually coached this next guest's daughter at the International Challenge, Edith Kaplan, who's on our team, which was a lot of fun just because, we went from being teammates to me now coaching her and the rest of her
And
team.
then be a teammate again.
But I think
Lots of fluidity and
yes, absolutely. Our followers will really understand what this coach means to us and all that he brings to the table. He wasn't part of the dugout with me and Robin, but he was constantly giving us insight on how we can be better as coaches and different things to look at that as, first time coach, you don't necessarily see right away. But yeah, just an overall great guy. Like had so much support for Robin and I during this tournament, having coached this tournament himself, I believe. But yeah, it just shows like what Israel softball is all about.
what I would say about this guest is he is just a massive support system for us, for his kids. He's a great dad, and he just brings a super, super positive energy to the dugout and a consistent, like stable energy. And I love that about him.
Yep. So without further ado, we're gonna jump over and add Justin Kaplan to this episode. Welcome to another episode of Jewish Softball More Than a Game, where the stories on the diamond go deeper than the box scores. I'm your host, Maddie Lewis, alongside my co-host, Arizona Richie. We are joined today by a multifaceted individual an experienced educator in optometry and vision, business consultant, and competitive coach Justin Kaplan, aka Coach Cap. A notable figure in the softball world, Justin is the assistant coach and director of player development for Birmingham Thunderbolts 18 Premier, one of the top 18U travel softball teams in the nation, and a team he built from the ground up beginning in 2019. As part of the Thunderbolts, he's coached multiple top 5 nationally ranked athletes, helped many players earn scholarships to elite NCAA programs, including his daughter and our teammate, Edith Kaplan. Shout out UVA.
Yes. Woo!
And has won multiple PGF national championships, which anyone out there with experience in travel ball knows is extremely difficult. Additionally, Justin serves as a coach and player development director for the Israel Softball Association and even led the U18 squad to its highest finish ever in the 2023 European Championships in Prague. Gearing up for more softball this summer across the U.S. and internationally, we're excited to share Coach Cap's journey. Justin, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Justin.
It's always fun talking to you guys.
I just want to say to start, Justin is such a positive person on the field to have in the dugout, and we are really happy that you're here and that we get to talk to you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm going to start us off. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got so involved in softball? Kind of like, did you have the passion growing up? Was Edith kind of a spark for you? Yeah.
So I played baseball growing up, like I think most people who get involved, most men who get involved in softball, but I also played golf. I played golf in college for a little bit. And then when Edith was growing up, she was our firstborn, obviously. And so around age, I guess she was playing rec and all-stars like 6, 7, 8 years old. And then all of a sudden she decided that she wanted to play travel softball. And so I really knew nothing about travel softball. I started researching it and discovered that there's this giant world of travel softball out there that I didn't know existed at all until she got interested in it. And so I'm not sure how she even knew that it existed, but I guess people that we played against may have been involved in it. So I started taking her first to as many of the best travel teams as I could find to take her to try out, just so we could see sort of where she was compared to everybody else, and realized like we thought that she was significantly behind a lot of the kids that were already playing travel softball. And then she started with a travel team when she was first year, I guess when they were 9. So first year 10U, and I wasn't going to coach it, but then I got sucked into it a little way through the first year and ended up coaching them. And then as she grew up, we kind of progressed through from one team to the next, sort of trying to grow the level at which we were playing, because she was really interested in it and was working really hard. And eventually we got a hold of the Birmingham Thunderbolts, and I had known the people who ran the organization. I'd met them earlier. They had a daughter who actually grew up in Mountain Brook, where Edith grew up. And so they told me if I ever wanted to, my daughter could always play for the Birmingham Thunderbolts, or I could always start a team if I wanted. And so I ended up starting that team, I guess, when I think those kids were 13. So it was first year 14U. And then I had them all the way up through 16s. It was my team all the way up through 16s. And then in our organization, after CU, the kids that are selected move up to play for the EU Premier team. And so all of my kids sort of graduated up to play on that team, and they brought me up with them. That was how I got involved in softball.
Cool. Wow.
Yes.
What would you say your coaching style is as a dad and just as a coach?
I've tried very hard to in fact, one of the things that I'm proudest of, I guess, about coaching is how many coaches don't know that Edith is my kid until we're done playing. I tried really hard
for a while either.
Yeah, I think I really try hard to sort of not do that. I mean, obviously, if you go back and look at it, I'm sure I was significantly harder on her than I was on other kids growing up. I mean, one of the things that you're always juggling when you're a dad coaching a softball team is the appearance of daddy ball, especially when you're trying to play at a national level. So, she was pretty far behind a lot of the kids that I had on the team when we first started, and she worked hard enough that she earned her way up into being, one of the players on the team that was a big contributor and everything. But it was kind of a longer road for her. And so along the way, she was always the first one that sat when someone needed to sit. She was always the first one to get pulled out when, things were going south. So even times when you probably wouldn't have pulled out anyone else's kid, you sort of ended up doing for yourself. So, but she was always a really good sport about it and understood it. And I think the hardest thing to juggle was sort of the line between not wanting to making sure that there wasn't, there was no daddy ball on the team, while also realizing that you have to be fair to your kid too, just like everybody else. I think as you get up into recruiting age, it gets even harder because you're going out of your way sort of to promote other kids on your team. And sometimes you sort of neglect your own child along the way.
Don't go too far on.
Yeah, it's hard. That's
Yeah.
really, I think that was the hardest thing. That was the best advice I got from, Rocky inside of who runs our organization, and was you have to treat your own kid fairly. You can't do anything with them that you wouldn't do with other people. And so as you started getting into, recruiting, it gets even more difficult because you have, parents obviously watching everything you're doing and who you're talking to and which coaches you're talking to. And so I think that was probably the trickiest part of that. It was, and obviously as coach, you get caught up in the emotions of winning and losing. And sometimes it's hard to just flip the switch and, want to go out for ice cream and talk to your kid and be nice on the way home. So I think if you asked her, she probably some of the hardest trips are the ones after, she struggles or the team struggles. And as a kid, I'm sure all of you, you probably grew up around your parents too, and it's hard that's one of the hard things to juggle.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important to talk about because all the different types of softball dads or baseball dads can sometimes steal the joy if it's handled the wrong way. So appreciate you saying all that.
Yep.
I think
I see it every day.
I was just gonna say, I think you've done a great job just being teammates with Edith. Like, she's extremely mature. Just got to give her a shout out there. Like, I know that comes from the top too of how she was raised and all that. Like, I'm probably 10 years older than her, but sometimes I feel like I act a little younger than her. But
people always told her she was a 40-year-old trapped in a 10-year-old's body. So
Same
she
with
was a bubby.
Sam.
She was a bubby at a young age. Yes, she was.
Sam too, I feel like.
Yeah, they both are very much like that. So
and I don't know your third one, but
Maddie's very mature also. She's in the gymnastics world, which puts what we do to shame from a discipline and self-discipline and, self-motivation standpoint. So that's been fun watching her grow up, learning how to do that too. That's something that's special. It's weird not to be a part of it. She's the only one who, they want you to drop your kid off, you would drop your kid off and pick them up 4 hours later. So it's a very different world than baseball and softball with, with little kids, but they're all three of them are really cool, really grown up kids.
Yeah, I think Edith's also one of those players that she hides her emotion really well. Like, you don't know if she's having a good game or a bad game. Like, just very calm, cool, collected, and just one of those teammates that like you want on your team all the time. So kudos to
That means a lot to us too. I'm proud of her.
Absolutely. I just want to go back to building the Thunderbolts. So, from scratch, what does that look like? And how did you get such talented players? Were they already kind of at that level, or did you kind of have to develop them into that? Yeah, what did that kind of look like?
So it was really hard at the beginning because the way the organization is set up, there's a team for each birth year, basically. So it started out birth years. Now they focus more on graduation years. So there was a group of kids that had already grown up in that organization and had been a part of it since they were 8 and 9 years old. And that was actually, I guess, before the recruiting rules changed. They were kids that at age 11 and 12 had college coaches watching them, because that was all sort of right around the time that those rules changed. And so we started a second team basically in that organization. So there was a team of kids that were born in 24 already, or that were born in 06, who were graduating, and most of whom were graduating in 2024. And there was a group of 07 kids that were graduating in 2025. So there are already two teams in that age group when we started this team. So it was hard at first because you're really not able. So you were already looked at as kind of a B team when you start. So you're having to build a reputation for a team and try to be able to get recruits. But why would someone who's a top level kid want to come play on that team when there's already a high level elite team that's very well respected in that age group? So there was another guy, Bobby Taylor, who I started it with. His daughter Ambry is actually going to Alabama next year and is just one of the most talented kids I've ever seen. But she and Edith, we started the team really with the two of them, and then some other kids that we knew that we played with. And so over time, we were sort of, during the fall when other teams were playing showcases and moving people around, we were playing it like it was the seventh game of the World Series and we had to win. We had to build a reputation before we were able to get kids. And so I think kids, I think, really loved playing for us. I think that I'm kind of a emotional, sensitive soul who, cares a lot about kids. And I truly, every kid that played for me, I feel like is family. You know, I still talk to all their parents, and I feel like I'll be a part of their lives forever. And I think that that was kind of different from the way a lot of coaches were. And so I think that that definitely helped us recruiting. You know, I knew that what we really needed to find is we had to find some really high level pitching quick. And there was a girl who's actually, her name's Ellie Partridge, and she actually is now on a track and field scholarship and is one of the best javelin throwers in the country. And she's a freshman at Alabama this year. But she kind of carried us when she was first around. And so she was one of those players that wasn't as well known as some of the other kids. She was quiet and, you know, kind of one of those kids that just flew under the radar. And so she came, and then that helped us out a lot significantly at the beginning. And so we just gradually kind of built, you know, we didn't really lose people. There probably were only maybe I cut two kids. I told all the kids that I brought in that everyone was going to get to play for at least 2 seasons and get a chance. And then there were two kids that I ended up having to cut after the second season. But then everybody else stayed. And then there were a few, you know, kids kind of self-selected and left over time, but we were able to kind of grow every year and pull in one or two people. And then what really made us special, I think, is that we had four really high level arms. I had four pitchers who were two lefties, two righties, who were both all around 6 feet tall. They all threw a little bit different. And the hardest part of all that was finding the right kids with the right families that would allow, you know, whose parents were happy with their kid taking a role and sharing the spotlight, I guess, with other pitchers, which is very rare in the travel ball world, because usually your elite pitchers and their parents want them to be shining, you know, and be the one carrying the team. And so for us, it was building the right mix of families and kids, I think, and then having four pitchers who were all really, really, really good. And that kind of separated us from other teams. And so over time, we just got better and better every year. And I think went from ninth the first year at PGF to, well, I guess we were 12th or 13th, then ninth, then third, and then we won it our first year of 18. So those kids kind of mixed in with some other kids, and that group was really special too. But it was honestly, I feel like it was the team atmosphere and the coaches really truly caring about the kids. That's what attracted the talent that we needed to be able to do. And I think a lot of them were kids that they weren't the most talented kids when we started, but then they all sort of grew together. And because we kept the nucleus of the team together, and because the kids really loved playing with each other, I feel like they got better and better, and just eventually, you know, kind of outplayed other kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, when I played PGF, it felt like nationals was so far away. Like, I mean, we were a decent team, but like that's not easy to do. And you know, that's awesome that you got that far. And then, you know, you have girls going on to committed to University of Alabama and University of Arkansas, Purdue, Memphis, you know, all these schools I'm listing. Like, that's got to feel good as a coach too, once you see, you know, them obviously shine on the field with your team, but then go off to play at the next level.
And we, you know, it's funny because we got so used to seeing coaches around, and the, you know, at first it was a little bit weird for the kids, but then, you know, we would have games where you'd have 30 high level coaches watching. And so the kids kind of get used to it. But really the coolest thing about it was I think of the nucleus of our team, all 16 kids ended up going to play Division I softball, which was super cool. I mean, to have four pitchers in the same class going to Arizona State, North Carolina, Arkansas, and Florida State was pretty quiet, you know. And I think that was probably the most stressful part of all of the years of coaching, was going through recruiting, because you believed forever that, you know, I really had a core belief that if you do things the right way, you can win. And so as the team got better and better, it sort of proved to be true. But then there's that part of you that, like, you know, you don't know when it comes to recruiting. It's like, is it really going to have work? And so that was probably the most difficult part. It's hard enough to go through recruiting with your own kid, but to go through it really being that bought into the futures of all these kids, like, you realize that parents, when they send kids to play for a travel team, like, they don't get to communicate with coaches. You're the lifeline to doing all that. And so I feel like it was something that I loved doing, because I loved building the relationships with college coaches. And I truly, you know, I loved over the years seeing college coaches love watching the way the team played and the quality of the kids. Like, there wasn't a kid on our team that was a schmuck, for lack of a better word. It's appropriate in
Perfect
this
word
podcast. I could use that
platform.
word.
Yeah.
So I had no schmucks. It was a schmuck-free team, and from a parent's perspective too, like literally these parents would hang out. They were the best of friends. Even the pitchers literally all would go shopping together every time we went anywhere. They were literally connected at the hip. The families were all pulling for each other. Whoever was pitching. I had one year at PGF. I wasn't even paying attention to how many innings people pitch. And I went and looked. Someone asked me at the end of PGF, and I went back and looked. And I think when I counted up the number of pitches that all of them threw, they were all within 10 pitches of each other. Over the course of it, then we played 12 games that year, I guess, and finished third. And I never thought about it. I never looked at it. I don't, that's when I realized like it was truly pitched by committee. And it was honestly the first travel team that I saw that did it. And it was partly because I believed it was going to be effective having all of those weapons, but then also it was the right thing to do because none of those kids got overworked. Nobody ever got hurt. I never understood why, if your dream school was coming to watch you at 7 o'clock at night and it was the third game of the day, you would want your kid to have already thrown 250 or 300 pitches to get you there. So it was one of those like, I was able to let everybody showcase their talents when they needed to. And then, when kids are having a bad day, they don't feel like they have to shoulder the load and you're not relying on them to be out there. And so you always kind of learn that there's somebody else out there that can help you and pick you up. And so they all bought into it. So one day it's one kid, another day it's another kid. It was rare that we had a kid that I would leave out there even to throw a whole game. And so that I feel like looking out for their health and safety and wellness, both mental and physical, was a huge part of why they were all very successful. Same thing happened with players, and I said, I think there are some people out there that do it right. There are unfortunately a lot of coaches out there that, in my opinion, don't do right when it comes to kids. And so it's hard as a coach to watch the coaches who I don't feel are doing it right still have success with kids in terms of recruiting. I think that was sort of one of the hard things to watch, which is like, hey, you try to play by the rules and do everything right and be honest with coaches. Because I'm never going to call a college coach and lie about a kid, and I'm never going to tell you that I think a kid can do it if a kid can't. Because to me, credibility was huge to me, and so for me, I'm not. I want to know that if I'm going to call a coach for a kid, that coach knows that I really believe that kid can play. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, it's what was best for them. But I feel like that was a big part also of having success with recruiting was having college coaches know that they're always going to get honest answers from you. And that really goes for every part of life. But I feel like especially when it comes to recruiting, that's an important thing as a coach.
Yeah, 100%. I have a couple things to say. Number one, I feel like we need some merch that says no schmucks allowed.
I could see it is. It
We
truly
can cut
matters.
you in on that a little bit.
I'm happy to, because it's truly, honestly, to me, the biggest problem teams have is when you allow, whether it's a parent or whether it's a kid, to infect the whole.
Yeah, no, it's a good message. And then number two, I think that pitching by committee is becoming a lot more popular in college ball too. So that's cool. You were ahead of the times.
It is, and it's funny because I actually had some college coaches that would talk to me about that all the time. I mean, because I would go help at some of the camps at schools. I went to Florida State, I went to LSU, I went to some other schools and help with camps. And so one of the things I loved about that was actually getting to talk to coaches about stuff like that and realizing that, because you don't see it a lot. And so it was cool to be able to have conversations with coaches about stuff like that.
Yeah, it's also like playing to the strengths of your team that season, So yeah, I guess my next question for you, how are you feeling about your first child leaving the nest?
It's so weird because I cry at everything. So I cry at like trying to give bar mitzvah speeches, graduate. But for some reason, I guess and I was trying to explain it to Brooke one night because she's been more emotional about Edith leaving than me. Because I guess I've been so involved since she was 9 and decided she wanted to go play softball at UVA. That
9 years old?
Yeah, I mean, I have pictures of her at camp with Coach Joe when she was like a baby, like 9 or 10 years old. The first time she ever went. Yeah, so and we always loved Virginia. My family always grew up there. My dad swam and dove there. My mom got her master's degree there. Yeah, my sister graduated from there and got her master's degree. So we've always loved it.
And Rabbi Jake, so fun fact, everybody, I went to UVA and our Hillel on campus, we had Rabbi Jake, who is Justin's brother-in-law. So just like
Correct.
crazy world. And then Edith started coming to camps when I was at UVA. And then, we made the connection. So that's just some backstory. But
It's really cool. So
so
with her, it was like, I guess you have this goal and you work so hard together for all these years to do it. So it's like all the tears, all the blood, all the sweat, like everything that goes into helping your kid try to achieve a goal like that. So when it finally happened, it's like, it just feels like it's the right thing to do and it feels like it's supposed to happen. And so I've been far less emotional about it, I guess, than I would ever have thought that I would be in terms of thinking about now. That doesn't mean that when I take her to school for, and drop her off that it might not be different, but it truly has been, I've been surprised at how, I got through graduations and things a lot easier than my wife did with regard to it. But again, it's weird because of all the, but I really truly I feel like it's the journey that you go through with your daughter that's like, it worked out and she's exactly where she always wanted to be. And so, I'm excited for her.
that's awesome. I was already so happy for her, but knowing that it's been since 9 years old that she's been wanting to go to UVA, that's amazing. So
Yeah, it was so cool. And then see, and she was always short and smaller for her. I have a picture with her standing next to you, and that's when we realized that at Virginia camp, hey, you don't have to be tall necessarily. You can still succeed and achieve your dreams if you're not
yeah.
5'8", 5'8".
And that's really funny because in that picture, Edith is like up here on me.
Yeah, see, she's even a little bigger than you. So I was like, the perfect pitch. But it truly, like, the school's amazing. The coaching staff, as you know, is just awesome, truly family. It's very much to me like what coaches should be, and that's why I'm super super at ease and super excited for her getting to go spend 4 years there.
That's awesome. She's gonna have a lot of fun.
Life just has a way of working itself out.
Sometimes you don't believe it, and it's hard along the way, but everything always works out the way it's supposed to.
No doubt. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your involvement with Team Israel and how that got started. And then, going off of just the incredible journey that you've had with Edith, getting to do that for Team Israel, how does that compare? Is it sort of the same thing, or is there a little bit more, is it a little bit more special just because you have this connection to Israel and Judaism?
Oh, it's way more special. It's the coolest thing that we get to do. And I think, when you go through, Edith went through a lot of injuries and like a lot of hard times where, you sit there and you're like, how much do I really want to do this? And I think honestly, the Team Israel stuff probably helped her more than anything else get through those difficult things because of how special that experience is. How I got involved with it is really crazy. We were traveling, and I guess it was probably 3 years ago, and all of a sudden I heard about that international challenge thing. And so I looked it up and I'm like, there's an Israel team playing in the international challenge in Colorado. So I started looking it up, and I guess the first year they tried to do it was COVID, maybe. So it was like it was the year after COVID, maybe. I don't remember when the international challenge started, but I found an online, like a questionnaire that you could fill out for if you were interested in it. And so I filled it out, and then she ended up getting to do it. And so I took her to Colorado that year, and she went to they have a 2-day training camp, I guess, for everybody who's playing in that, which was the first time that we've literally ever been around Jewish kids that played softball, because around here, there's not anyone who's Jewish who plays softball. So it was like the coolest thing I had ever seen. But she did it. And I think it was the year that all of y'all were the first trying to go get citizenship and everything for, to go. Yeah, I think it was that first year. I think because half the people were like over in Israel trying to get citizenship, and then you were going to go. You're planning on doing it all that year, and so it was that very first year. So it was Colorado, and she loved it, and I loved it, and I was like, man, this is so cool. And then the next year, they asked me if I wanted to get involved and help coach, and so I said, of course. And so I helped coach the team in the international challenge, and then I met Ami and Leah and the Israel Mafia and
Another t-shirt. Like so a Mount Rushmore.
Exactly.
Never allow it.
It would be amazing.
And we should do.
They asked me if I would go to, I guess it was going to Prague with the 18s that year. And so I was like, of course. And so I went with Leah and Mike Gross to Prague, and that was the coolest thing. And then I got involved with the 19U team, and then, I wanted to get involved with, the senior women's team also. And so, I met Nikki and Woofter, who are two of the most amazing humans ever. And then they were decided they needed someone to come help with pitching and stuff there. And so I started helping them out. And then when Coach Palmer took the job at UCSD, that left me and Woofter to, in Canada, solo in Canada. And so it was just a blast. But it's been so, as I sort of, I don't know if it's really progressing, but just getting involved at, all levels of it, it's just been super fun. I've been fortunate because, I have had the luxury of being at home to homeschool Maddie when she decided she wanted to start homeschooling for gymnastics. So I had time and freedom to sort of travel and do that stuff that not a lot of people are fortunate enough to have, and an amazing wife who, works really hard so that we have the opportunity to do these things, which has also been very cool and very different. But that's what allowed me to be able to spend the time that I spent with Edith at the softball field, and then also, with Maddie and with Sam doing it. So it's sort of been a cool role as, the stay at home dad who dabbles in lots of other things. But, to go from practicing law to running a business to, when we sold our business in 2017, we sold our optometry practice, and one of Brooke kept working, and one of us had to stay home with Maddie because I guess she was in first or second grade when she decided she wanted to homeschool and really do gymnastics seriously. So that ended up being me, and haven't regretted a single moment of it because it's given me the time to, be able to travel and spend my summers. Like this summer, we're leaving on Wednesday, and then I won't be home till July 13th or 14th, something like that. So the Israel stuff is on a whole nother level. It's so cool to be able to be out on the field and hear the national anthem, sing Hatikva with everybody else, like, and to realize what you're representing. And then, stuff like this, especially in times like this, when, the world is crazy and there's so much going on, you get filled with such pride getting to represent the state of Israel and be a part of it. And it's been really cool, like being on the field with Ukraine while they're going through that war was sort of crazy. And then that day that we were on the field playing Germany, and there was a bombing in Germany at the embassy, I think that day when we kind of went on lockdown and got swooped around, and we were cordoned off and kept in our own little area. But like, it was so surreal being on the field and that day and playing Germany when that was literally happening in the world. So you just sort of realize the gravity of how crazy it is. The day we were playing in Canada and there was protests in the outfield while we were trying to play softball, like, and then you have Chabad people singing songs to try to drown it out so you can sort of play softball. It's like, it's this moment where you sort of, softball itself is really cool, but then you realize just how crazy it is and how insane it is to be able to be a part of something that is like that. And then playing with girls who were serving in the army and going through unimaginable things every day. Last summer was really meaningful. I know you guys probably felt that too. It's like, you think you're having a bad day, and then you realize what a break it is from life for those kids to be coming to spend time with us while we're doing it. So there's just so many things that have happened that you just realize it's so cool.
Yeah, I think on so many levels, last summer in Canada was very eye-opening, like more than any other year. I think I've always felt like, we're playing for something like really big, but last year at Canada was, I think, very meaningful for everybody. So, okay, I want to keep getting into like Judaism, all the pride that we have. So how do you feel like your Jewish identity and culture, and maybe growing up, if you want to talk about Judaism growing up, but how do you feel like that guides you in life now, whether it's softball or, personal at home or in your careers?
Huge part of our life. I grew up, so I went to a Hebrew day school in Memphis. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and my parents sent me to the Memphis Hebrew Academy, and I went there from first through sixth grade. So I went to preschool at the JCC and then went to Jewish day school. And so I grew up very involved. My dad was the president of the JCC. My mom was involved heavily with the synagogues. My dad was the president too. So it was a big part of our life. I got bar mitzvah in Israel, and so I had been several times. And then it was super important for me with our kids that our kids also have a Jewish education. I feel, one of the things I feel strongly about is that it's our job as a parent to give our kids the tools to be able to decide at some point in their life, whether they want to be religious, don't want to be religious, whatever level of Judaism they want to live. I kind of felt like it was our responsibility as parents to make sure that they had the tools to be able to make an educated decision at whatever point in their life they want to make decisions about how much Judaism they want to have in their life. And so our kids all went to the Jewish day school here, which has been amazing. And they went to Chabad for preschool. And so now Edith had her bat mitzvah in Israel. Maddie had her bat mitzvah in Israel. Sam's supposed to have his bar mitzvah in Israel next summer. And so it's we take the whole family and go, for everyone's bar mitzvah. So for us, like that was a huge part of who we are. My kids always grew up very comfortable with it. And so when you're on a softball field and there's a kid from Arkansas who I remember her dad said, I'm going to be honest with you, when we met y'all, we had to look up what is a Jew on Google. And so, you realize that Edith's probably the first Jewish kid that a lot of these kids ever met. I mean, a lot of these kids are from very rural places where in the South where there just aren't a lot of Jewish kids. And so there's, I don't know what it's like playing where you guys are, but every time you finish a softball game, everyone gets in a circle and prays. And I feel like it's a very Southern thing because whenever we forget when we go to nationals and it's teams that are not from the South that they just walk back to the dugout and you don't have the little prayer circle where you say the Lord's Prayer or whatever you do after each game. So for us, Tiff and I always stand outside the circle, but are always very supportive of kids doing it. And so it's, I feel like because there was so much Jewish in Judaism growing up for them, they're comfortable enough with it that it makes it easy to be around people who are not Jewish. And I find Edith and me constantly answering questions from people about Judaism and wanting to know things. And so it's super cool to be involved. Then my sister Lindsay married, Rabbi Jake. And so we would go every year for Rosh Hashanah. We would go to Hillel, and so to hear him, because he was one of the greatest speakers ever. I loved listening to him. He's super motivational and I love when he gives speeches. I love when he talks, and he's just such a smart guy. And so it's been a huge, huge part of us. That was one of the biggest things Edith was looking for when, she looked at colleges, was making sure that there was a big, Jewish life. And so
Yeah.
as a parent, it's cool to see how important it is to your kids. So even when you're not forcing it on them, it's, because they all grew up with it and we're so used to it. It's been fun watching them. It definitely has shaped our family a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like the part about you kind of allowing your kids to make decisions about their Judaism, because I think Judaism is not just about the religion. There's so much more to it. So however individuals connect with it, they should like lean into that, So I like that a lot. I respect that a lot.
Yeah, my parents or my mom kind of did the same thing with my brother and I, because my dad's not Jewish. But now you look at my brother and I, and we couldn't be like opposite ends of the spectrum, where I like really dove into it and he's like, he identifies with it, but it's not as much of a piece of, how he lives his life and how he identifies and whatnot. But still, yeah.
And what's so cool about Israel with the Team Israel stuff is there are so many people. It's like the whole spectrum from Judaism has been an important part of my life forever to softball literally reconnected. This being a part of Team Israel reconnected me with the religion that I didn't even have. So it's really amazing to me how many people find this pride in being a part of Team Israel, and it's really changed their life because Judaism was gone out of their life until you all of a sudden have this group of people and are able to be Jewish, and you realize like how cool it is and how special it is. And so I think that's honestly been one of the coolest things I've seen too, is the people that have been reunited with Judaism because of softball and what Team Israel's done.
Yeah, and I think I was similar to Edith with like I never played with Jewish girls. Like I was one of two Jewish people in my high school and the other one was my sister. So I think Team Israel has been really important for people like me and Edith, because we finally get to be like with Jewish people that have similar experiences as us and like have a passion for softball, and that's never happened before, and you just feel like so at home with that. So I think that's a super important part too.
And she has actually, there's another Jewish kid in her class too. So of the 7 kids, there are 2 of them actually playing softball together. So which is really Hannah Weismer also who's coming in. So it's really crazy that it worked out. It's worked out that way.
I also think the international challenge is like a really good introduction to just, you just qualify if you're somehow Jewish, right? And then from there, it's kind of like a nice little pipeline into what we're trying to build here as part of the Israel Softball Association. So I'm really excited to coach that. And I think it'll be really cool to have Edith on the field too, knowing that we're teammates.
Also be so fun.
Yeah, I know.
It's the first year I've been a part of it too, because it's going to be so weird. Because it's going to be awesome. But she's so excited to get to play for you guys and to have, yeah. She's like, this is going to be the most fun. It's going to be so much fun. So it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think
I promise I won't yell and I won't criticize or yell. I'll be nice.
you can.
If you want it, you get it. That's right.
I know you will give it in a way that I will want to hear it too, right?
Yes.
Can receive.
All you have to do is ask. I'll be there. I'll be up with Tim and everyone else up in the stands.
That's the first thing we ask the girls. We're like, look, you're gonna make mistakes, and we're probably gonna make mistakes. Like, have grace with this whole tournament, but more than anything, like, I think it's gonna be really cool to kind of continue to like give back to the game and continue to grow this thing. Like, I mean, when I started, Z started even before me, but I mean, we had a national team and a junior national team. And so just to see like how big and what it's kind of turned into, like it's just kind of inspiring and continues to motivate us to keep going and stay in it. Cause I mean, I could have stopped playing like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but that just continues to draw me back, like with people like you and everyone that's part of the organization. Like, it's so hard to walk away from.
Y'all keep trying. I know. I've seen it. I know. I keep watching. Y'all be rolling y'all in wheelchairs over the field. You're still going to be there. It's so cool for me too, because it's like otherwise this summer would be the last time that I was coaching my daughter on the field. And so I think the other thing that's so cool about it is like, it's something that, I don't know what she's going to end up, how long she'll end up deciding to do it. But, obviously, we had the age range was 16 to 26 the last time we played. In theory, there's another 10 years out there that, she and I could get to spend on a softball field together, which is super incredible and insane that it's something that you can do with your daughter into her 20s, because it ends for most people when they graduate from high school. So
yeah, that's beautiful.
That's a cool part of it. And y'all will still be there.
In some capacity.
Be in the medic tent.
We just need a permanent, as long as we have a therapist.
Yeah.
Get people through it.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of Team Israel, what has been your favorite memory so far from being involved with Team Israel?
I feel like there were so many of them. Like Canada was big because there were some of those games in Canada where we compete. Honestly, the game against Canada was probably one of the coolest games because of all the crazy shenanigans that were happening around the field. But then to be in that game, as long as the first 3 or 4 innings of that game was probably like the coolest thing ever, because to have the group, to have the kids that the team that was out there doing what they were doing, hanging with, teams that were much deeper and had more coaches than we had players. It was like, it was cool.
9.5 players, I want to say.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, we had about
that team had probably been at training camp like a whole month before the Canada Cup.
Yeah.
And just for more context, like 3 POs.
Yeah, it's crazy. What we were doing there and that day and that week was so crazy to me. But it was honestly, you sit there and you're like, you feel like there's a supernatural being that's helping you out. Like you sort of feel this connection to God, I guess, when you're playing there and doing that, especially for Israel, going through what we were going through with what was going on in the world at the time. It just felt like it was just supposed to be. And so that part of it was really cool. Honestly, it's so hard to even come up with specifics because of how much, it's just so meaningful every time you're out there on the field, and the watching all of y'all and how close everybody is just, it's so cool because it's a family, and it's like watching a family reunion every year when, we finally get together for the summer and see how much y'all love each other and love playing with each other and how hard it is for people to leave, even when their bodies and their, and their jobs are telling them they have to. It's pretty special to be a part of.
Yeah. Everyone's always like, we got one more in us.
Yeah, exactly. See, and at the moment it feels that, and then a week later, it's kind of like I did that after a marathon. When you're doing it, you say to yourself, like, I'm never doing that again. That was so awful. And then 5 days later, you're like, it was pretty fun. Yeah. I maybe have one more in me. I could find another one. I could do this one more time.
It's like what I've heard about giving birth. Like you forget the pain so that you can keep on.
Yeah, you have to. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like it's one of those things, but it's the connection of the players, the coaches, the group of people in Israel who have poured so much of their heart and soul into building this. Like it's something that feels like not really, it's not an obligation, but it just feels like it's the right thing to do. But it's the being around all of you guys that's what makes it, so cool as a coach. Because you can coach anywhere. But that's how I was with my travel team. Like I made a decision with myself that I was never gonna coach a team and feel like I was hiding in the dugout and afraid to go talk to people in the stands. Like if I was gonna spend that much time doing it, it was gonna be with kids that I loved and families that I loved and people that I respected and enjoyed being around. And so the reason, I've got so involved with Israel because it was the same thing. Like the people are just awesome and you love being around them. And it's just so much fun traveling and getting to do it. And to be able to have the experience of getting to travel all over Europe and
Yeah.
also getting to play softball is like, I pinch myself at how crazy that is.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say we definitely feel your care for us on the field. I think you're one of the people I feel it the most from in terms of like just coaches that have,
Just feel like you're a constant. Like you know what you're
yeah.
gonna get from you every single time. And I think that goes a long ways, especially when we have all these outside factors that like things are different. Like we got protests, like maybe our game time changed or like whatever it is. Like we just know that we're gonna get the same Justin like every single day. And that goes
That's
such
awesome.
a long way for athletes.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
you're super approachable, all that stuff. I know you were saying like with your
Thanks.
team, that was like your big thing. You tried to always like lead with love and care for the players, and just want you to know we feel that definitely.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
On a similar topic, just because I'm curious to hear your advice and what you have to say, but we've been asking everyone this just with everything going on in Israel and the war and whatnot. But as a parent, but also just as, a proud Jew, how do you continue to kind of show up every day with that pride? And what do you tell your kids, like with all this going on? How do you kind of stay positive and keep moving forward?
Well, we talk about it all the time. So Maddie was supposed to go. She was chosen to represent the USA team for in the Maccabi Games for gymnastics this summer. So we just found out yesterday that they're moving it to
wow.
next year. But it was unfortunate. It was going to be the same week as Canada. So Edith and I were going to be in Canada, and then Brooke was taking Maddie to Israel with Sam. Which, by the way, Sam's stoked because now he will be in Canada this year. So yeah, he'll be back. So he's very excited.
Listeners, Justin's son Sam is the smartest child I've
Yeah.
ever met in my life, and we have to get him on the
You
pod.
should. No, I told him. I said you're probably going to be next. Like you
Wait, are
totally.
you
He's the only
serious?
12-year-old that could chess. Yeah, he would totally do it. So he literally does now. Started doing play-by-play on Game Changer for all of our games. So
Oh
all of
my
our
God.
Bolts games, if you watch, they're on Game Changer, and he literally does live play-by-play. So he got into his true feelings about uniforms, about the weather, about like every. So sometimes Brooke actually texts him and is like, "Hey, bro, like
Phil.
be a little bit careful with the things you say, right? You don't know who's listening." And he's like, "Well, that's my opinion, and so that's what people are going to get." I'm like,
I
"Hey,
love it.
hey." So but he's a 12-year-old that's like super. So he's literally traveling with us the whole summer. So happy to do it. And so Maddie, so we've been talking about it with the Macau, that's been a very real thing. I mean, obviously when we went over there for citizenship, it's, you realize how special it is to actually be a citizen of Israel too. And so Sam went with us when we went over there, and Sam and Maddie they also want to do it. And so eventually our whole family will do it. But it's a country that's just, it's really special. I mean, the more time you spend over there, the more you realize how insane it is that it exists and how special it is. And so obviously I've had a connection with it since I was a young kid. One of the things I did, which, is a topic for a whole nother day, but I represented over 6,000 victims in Israel who were family members of victims of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad and other terrorist acts in Israel in a lawsuit against a bank that was paying money to suicide bombers' families in the West Bank and Gaza. And so that's something that, I could talk about forever, but it's one of the more proud things I ever did professionally. So I was in Israel for 2 weeks every other month doing depositions of all these family members and talking to them. But it's so my kids have seen that, they know how special it is, but it was always about terror attacks and victims. And so we've always been very open with our kids about what happens over there and about the dangers of it, but at the same time about how special it is. And so it's been cool to see how all of them from, Chabad preschool all the way up through their years at the Jewish day school, like have truly are proud to be associated with Israel and aren't afraid to talk about it with kids, proud of it enough that they'll get in, Edith got in debates with people in class before when, we went through some rough times over the last year or two. And so we as parents are super proud of it. And I feel like for us, we've never shielded our kids away from the truth about what's going on. So I know a lot of people are a little hesitant to talk about the bad side of what's happening. But for us, it's been more about I'd rather them hear it from us and have us be open and honest with them about it so that it's not confusing when you hear other people talking about it. And so there always have been Israeli kids at school with them, especially their kids in Birmingham who are Israeli, but who had to leave after October 7th, who, came here to live for a year or so. And so they've been in school with them. And so they get to spend day in, day out with those kids. I feel like it's one of those things. Everyone's different about it. For me, by being open and honest about it, it's not as scary. And it's cool that they all still want to go. And Maddie will be super excited next summer when she gets to go to the Maccabi games. It's a huge part of life for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely a tough time for everybody. And, we all are just hoping it'll end soon. But I think just being together and connecting with you and the rest of our teammates and coaches and other people in Israel, that helps you kind of get through it a little bit and feel connected in one way or another.
I agree. Last summer, having the Israelis with us, it was so cool. It just makes you realize how neat it is that they're willing to go through all that for their country and how proud everyone in Israel is of their country. And it's a place that's not like anything else. It's super special.
Thank you for being here and putting yourself out there, in a different way.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's super fun.
For this summer and to have you coach us. And
awesome. I can't wait.
That's right.
Let's do it.
It'll be here soon.
Counting down the day.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks, Justin.
All right. Talk to you later.
That was Justin Kaplan, everybody, an assistant coach on various national teams for Israel softball. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram at Shalom_sluggers_LLC and check us out on LinkedIn and YouTube at Shalom Sluggers. Tune in for another episode next week. We'll see you then.